Hey everyone, this is Adam Ellenboss from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at the Sun conjoining Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. This transit began yesterday and is perfect today. So we're going to take a look at 5 things that you can watch for when the Sun conjoins Pluto. But I'm also going to talk about this in terms of one of the first opportunities that Pluto has now sort of permanently in the sign of Aquarius, no more retrogrades back into Capricorn, to speak on behalf of its agenda in a new place of our life, in a new phase of life. So we're going to look at it from that standpoint and add a little bit of a twist in how we're thinking about this today. I think this will be a good way of approaching it. So anyway, before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. Your comments, your like, your subscribe, all of it really helps the channel to grow. We're seeing if we can't get to 80,000 subscribers on the channel by the spring equinox. I don't know, might be a goal too much, but we'll see. We'll see how close we can get to that growth goal. Transcripts of any of these daily talks can be found on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. I want to point you over there right now to check out the talks that are coming up. So as we are doing this, go to the events page, click on speaker series, and you are going to see January 26th, February 1st, and February 2nd. We have free speakers coming and speaking through the school. These are open to anyone, totally free to attend. You just have to register to get the live webinar link, and then you get a recording afterward if you can't make it live. One of our course directors, Raimundo, will be giving a talk on annual perfections. Stormy Grace will be visiting us, giving a talk on lunar phases and love. And Timothy Desmond will be giving a talk on near-death experiences, string theory, and astrology in the Platonic Jungian tradition. That's going to be a really fun talk. These are all free, so check them out. If you go to the events page and click on live talk, you'll see my monthly webinars are coming up as well. There's new webinars that are coming in February, March, and April. Venus Through the Fire, we're unlocking the mysteries of the Venus retrograde cycle, which will be with us in March, so a little prep for that. We're looking at the 3rd house in March, which was called the Temple of the Moon. And we're going to talk about essential dignities in April and why people should stop hating on them, or why they get misunderstood and what they actually are and how they're used. So some fun talks coming up. Check those out. I hope to see you there. Anything you register for with us, you get a recording if you can't attend live. So be sure to check those things out. All right, on to our content for the day. Oh, you know what? One thing I wanted to mention really quick. Many of you may not know that we have an affordable reading service now available through our website with tiers of different prices and different staff members that are there to do readings for you. This is something we built through last year's Kickstarter. So if you want an affordable reading with one of our staff, there are different tiers of pricing available for you so that you're not priced out of getting some astrological consultation in this new year. So check that out as well. It's under the readings tab under affordable reading service. Been meaning to mention that as well. Okay, so let's turn over to the real-time clock, and here we go. Now, we have, let me pull up, where's my epic pen? Okay, here we go. So you can see today that we have the conjunction of the Sun and Pluto. Now, I have this taking place this morning, January 21st, Central Time at like 8 a.m. or something like that. So we'll have been feeling this yesterday into today. The Sun ingresses into Aquarius, and right away it's getting into the conjunction with Pluto. Now, if we give this just a couple of days to play out, I'd say 3 days, that takes us to January 24th, Friday. So you could think of this as a transit that starts the week off and that runs really from the 20th through the 24th in terms of a window in which we may really notice or feel the Plutonian effects. So what to watch for? That is the question of the day. I want to talk about this, first of all, from the standpoint of the fact that Pluto has just recently ingressed at the late part of 2024 into Aquarius to stay now for about 2 decades. So with that ingress, no more retrogrades back into the sign of Capricorn, it's definitely a little different. The first couple of ingresses are like, dipping your toes, Pluto sort of dipping its toes in the waters, the airy waters of Aquarius, so then backing out and going back into Capricorn. And so when a outer planet finally transitions into a sign to stay, there's a sense that now the work has commenced. Now the focus on a new area of life, a new sort of era of our life with an outer planet in a new house, has begun. Now, I say new house because in ancient astrology, in ancient Western and Eastern astrology, whole sign houses are the basic form of house division. And so when a planet changes signs, it changes houses. So from the paradigm, from the whole sign house paradigm, that means that ingresses are a big deal. We pay close attention to them on this channel. Obviously, for your horoscopes, it'll change signs. So even if you're not a whole sign devotee, if you listen to horoscopes, you certainly are in that format. So they can make a big impact with your horoscopes, if nothing else. Now, what's really interesting is that some of the earliest and most significant transits to Pluto in Aquarius will therefore give an opportunity for Pluto in Aquarius to sort of make its intentions clear. I say this as someone, as an astrologer who has watched ingresses, Uranus into Aries and Uranus into Taurus, for example, little faster moving outer planets in Uranus or Saturn or Jupiter. And when they change signs, some of the earliest, biggest aspects to that planet in a new sign will often give an opportunity for us to really understand the direction that that planet is taking us in. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's about those things that are shifting inside of us, and sometimes it's very clear that, something, the direction or tone or mood of something in some particular area of our life is changing directions. But either way, it becomes an important moment to track and pay attention to. I highly recommend anyone taking astrology seriously and not just constantly listening to horoscopes for something like a celestial gossip column report. If you're really serious about tracking astrology in your life, it's like having a dream journal. You need some way, if you're going to work with your dreams, of being in the practice of noticing and observing the parallels between the symbolism and the events, both inner and outer. So this is a great time to start a journal practice if you don't have one yet, because we've got a good opportunity this week to start tracking meaningful transits. And on my channel, you'll find that I'll often tell you exactly when to track out something, and I'll offer you historical timelines and so forth. So you'll certainly have some support here if you decide to do so. But regardless, I recommend tracking this moment. Now, there are 5 things that I would watch for, and these are kind of my ideas about how Pluto might offer us its first clear voicings in Aquarius. Now that it's there to stay, being a little bit different than the previous ingresses, we can start to say, okay, now I'm becoming aware of a focus. We have Pluto, at the first degree of Aquarius, a very early movement through the first bound of Aquarius, the first decan of Aquarius, the first permanent placement. Now I'm here to stay. So what I have in this list is archetypal things that would fit any Sun-Pluto conjunction, but they're a little bit specific to what Pluto might be saying for the first time right now, or offering us some first insights as it's now in Aquarius to stay. So again, let's go to number 1. This is Pluto's first clear voicing. So what do I mean by that? Well, the sun is a planet that naturally is associated with things like intelligence, illumination, enlightenment, and understanding. The sun was the planet that was associated with the 9th house, for example. It was said to rejoice in the 9th house in ancient astrology, a place that is associated with teachers, enlightenment, illumination, wisdom, philosophy, and the process of enlightenment as we study universal dharma, all contained in the 9th house. Both Eastern and Western ancient astrologers talk about the 9th house this way. And so one way of thinking about what the sun does when it contacts Pluto, because Pluto is a planet that works in the shade, in the realm of that which is invisible or unconscious or subterranean, or it works in realms that are deep and mysterious and somewhat unseen. Think, for example, the fact that Pluto and the underworld have a long time association, and like a planet like Mercury, who can go into the realm of invisibility. And there's things like invisible cloaks that are associated with Pluto, right? So the contact with the underworld is one of the reasons that Pluto is a great process-oriented planet, is because when things are being moved from a subterranean or underworld space, it's about things that are hidden gradually becoming revealed, or unconscious material gradually becoming conscious. And the unconscious, by the way, often gets associated with evil and darkness, which is unfortunate, because only some things that are in the unconscious are, like dark or demonic or something. It's not all. The unconscious should not be thought of as, synonymous with evil, right? So that's problematic, first of all, that Pluto gets that reputation. Although it's not wrong to say that some of what's in the unconscious might be evil or dark or sort of like problematic in some way. But anyway, the point being that when the sun comes into contact with that subterranean space, one of the things that it can do in any Sun-Pluto conjunction
Come on, man.
is to suddenly offer an illumination of that which is unconscious, hidden, or subterranean somehow. It's as though we have a flashlight and we're able to see at least a small portion of what has existed in some unconscious way. This, when Pluto has just ingressed into Aquarius, can therefore be a moment where Pluto sort of says, this is what I'm doing. This is the direction I'm heading in. Oh, I have a clear moment of understanding what this evolutionary process is starting to do or where it's heading. It's not that we can see all of a 20-year arc that's in front of us right now, but at the very least, we might get a sense of what path Pluto is on, what path Pluto is walking down, or some of the contents of the unconscious space that Pluto is starting to work in or through. So think about the sun conjoining Pluto right now as an opportunity for us to start seeing a little bit of that invisible or darker territory that Pluto is bringing to light, and then simply apply that to the whole sign house in which Pluto in Aquarius is working into right now in your chart. Now, I said earlier yesterday, I said for the fixed signs, this is a cardinal or an angular house in your chart, which makes that particularly potent. And I went through those in the video yesterday at the very end of the video, if you want to look back on the little house reminders I gave for the fixed signs, because those signs, rising signs in particular, are going to be having Pluto in an angular house. It's a little louder in those spaces, but everybody's got Pluto somewhere. You can go back into any of the horoscopes that we did, particularly the horoscope for November, and you can take a look at the way that we talked about Pluto ingressing into a new house to stay. So if you go back into my archives, there are at least 5 or 6 videos in which we've done breakdowns of Pluto's horoscope in the new house in your chart, if you want a little extra backing in that sense. So, Pluto's first clarity. Number 2 would be Fertile's close removal. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Pluto's first removal. Pluto is a planet that is associated with purgation. So, removal is maybe not even the best word. When you think about Pluto, one of the things that happens is things that are held within or trapped might erupt, or things that are toxic might be purged or removed, or things that are unseen may suddenly be revealed. So when I was talking about Pluto's first clarity, in a sense, removing some element of unconsciousness and making it conscious would also be like a removal. But this is a slightly different way of thinking about it, because what Sun and Pluto can do together when they come into a conjunction is it's like an antibiotic. The Sun-Pluto acts like a purgative and will remove things that are toxic or corrupt or stagnant and suddenly bring it into the light. They say the best antibiotic is sunshine. You guys ever heard that before? So, bringing things that are dark to light and removing things that are toxic, stagnant, malignant, that is a Sun-Pluto dynamic. For example, Pluto transiting Sun in many natal charts over my years of counseling, I have seen in relation to the beginning of chemotherapy, the removal of a tumor, or even the removal of something, an organ that is sick, not sick, but what I'm like having your appendix removed or something. I've seen that with Pluto and the Sun. In fact, had that happen to a family member not long ago. So, point being, one of the ways that Pluto starts its work is to start by removing something. So watch for the potential for something to be removed or purged. You might even think about it that way. But the word purged, I think about it in the context of like an ayahuasca ceremony. Some people, the word purge, they're associating it with like, I don't know, something really, like was that movie, The Purge, where everyone's killing each other? I don't know. People have maybe some negative associations with that word. So use whatever word works for you. Number 3, Pluto's first motivation. The Pluto dynamic is incredible for any kind of Pluto transit, is very powerful when it comes to things like fertility and the quality of regeneration, where something has felt dead, suddenly it's filled with life again. Suddenly it's filled with a sense of meaning and purpose again. So Pluto's first motivation in a new sign and house, it's not like it hasn't already begun with the few little ingresses we've already had. I don't mean to oversimplify, But boy, a Sun Pluto conjunction right now that Pluto's here to stay, might give us some clues about the different direction or purpose that is starting to clarify itself, and that is gaining some fertile, um, some sort of fertile regenerative power. I say both fertile and regenerative because sometimes it's something that's dead that's coming back to life, and other times it's suddenly just an energy of empowerment, like, oh, there's fertile soil and I can plant something here and I'm really aware of it. And Pluto will certainly just make things vital and empowered. The word Pluto means riches, and and of course the Greek counterpart is Hades, but the the idea that right now with the sun, who has as a symbol has much to do with motivation, purpose, life direction, ambition, could come in with Pluto and say, let's clarify a sense of direction or purpose or motivation or intentionality. We may notice some of that coming through. Now, is it the world's biggest transit? No, but when it comes to tracking the meaningful ingress of an outer planet into a new house and a new space in your life, this is a good moment to pay attention, because even the littlest inklings are falling on rich soil. So, we don't always notice how small it is. We start thinking about something, start wishing for something, start imagining something. It falls on fertile ground. You'll find that 6 months, a year out, now I'm working on that thing. Now that thing it's started to grow. That's why I say pay attention. All right, number 4, Pluto's first complication. Now, here's the thing, is that Pluto also tends to expose unconscious dynamics, power struggles, conflicts of ego or different wills that are involved in a situation. And so, when Pluto's in a new house, it's also going to bring up things for us that are probably more complicated, and that there's shadow material that we may not have been aware of. So I say Pluto's first complication because one thing that the sun can do with Pluto is sort of illuminate, this is deeper and more complicated than I thought. Or there are motivations that I wasn't aware of, or there are power dynamics or shadows at play in a situation or part of myself or an environment or a relationship that I wasn't completely aware of previously. So even just becoming more aware of those things, it starts to change the landscape of a specific area of our life, or our unfolding as a person. So watch for that. And then 5 would be Pluto's first judgment. One of the features of Hades and the underworld in the sort of ancient Hellenistic imagination is that when the soul passes out of its body, it goes through a transmigratory process where its karma, its actions, and the results of its actions are weighed. And you see this in various traditions, right? You have something like the bardos in Buddhism. You have the Egyptian Hall of Mot, where the heart is weighed against the feather. There's so many versions of this, right? But the idea is that there's a process of purification that takes place, and something like a judgment of the soul and its actions. I don't think of this personally as a punitive thing, but as a careful kind of evaluation of the heart and soul of each of us that happens as we act and grow and learn. I think there's a lot of grace in the universe. So when I say judgment, I really don't think of it as something punitive, but I do think of results are measured in a way that doesn't, it evades our understanding a lot of the time. You get insights sometimes into your actions and the results of your actions that are not as simple as A cause B cause C, right? It's more like an entire web of circumstances, and you start to see how certain mistakes were in weird ways, like the best thing that could have happened. It's complicated, right? So my point is not to be overly simplistic that Pluto's going to deliver some kind of, hip check to throw you into the boards of life or something, but Pluto will offer you feedback in the form of outcomes and results and tangible feedback about the way you've been doing things or about the way that things have been unfolding, and it will be clear. It's like, oh, I can see that the planets are offering feedback in the way that consequences are happening in my life. And sometimes I can see the consequences and feel the weight of karmic judgment, but I don't really understand it. Either way, the point is that you may notice that Pluto is sort of delivering results and bringing about a karmic series of outcomes or results that, we have to stand back and go like, wow, okay, so now I see there are cosmic forces at work in a particular area of my life, and if I pay attention, I might be able to learn from it. And then even if I can't understand it, because there certainly the sun will lend some clarity to those deeper karmic judgments that are unfolding, and the way results are happening can be illuminated for us. But also, some of it may remain mysterious, and so there's also an opportunity to simply trust and say, okay, I don't really understand why things are happening, and it feels a little intense, or it might even feel a little harsh and severe. That's a Sun-Pluto dynamic for sure. But I'm going to have faith and trust, stay humble, stay curious, stay accepting, stay in gratitude, and see how things play out. And then often what happens is, coming off from an experience like this in short time, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, if there's been something big, like a kind of big, it feels like the cosmic judge thumped the hammer, the gavel down, you will often come to a place of understanding in time, because you yourself didn't react, you just stayed open and accepting. And even if Sun-Pluto dynamics sometimes come across as like the cosmic judge and jury delivered a harsh result, that there's a way in which, if we trust the process of what the cosmos is doing in time, we usually come into a greater and deeper sense of wisdom. And sometimes that's nothing more than an appreciation for the mystery of it that we cultivate by not reacting when things become a little dramatic. Anyway, I don't know, but just notice that, like, Sun Pluto, like, one of the things that I've noticed over, like, if Pluto's transiting someone's sun in their birth chart, you will often see dramatic karmic outcomes that are, and sometimes they're really powerfully good too, like very empowering. But in the same way, you'll go like, wow, that was a very powerful result that just came. I didn't necessarily see that coming. It's not like I felt like X led to Y, which then led to Z, this huge, result that was really good. I'm not sure how I got this good result. Or that was really heavy and intense, and I'm not sure exactly how or why that happened. So there's this kind of eruption of unconscious material that sometimes feels disproportionate to anything we can name as a cause. That's what I'm trying to get at, and that's why I say Pluto's first judgment. So big moments like that happen with Sun-Pluto dynamics. Anyway, a little bonus would be, just always pay attention when the Sun and Pluto are conjoined to the karma of leaders, fathers, or anyone that constitutes a symbolically solar figure. Sometimes that will come up pretty dramatically around these transits. That is it for today. That's what I've got. Remember, again, like and subscribe if you haven't yet. We're seeing how we can build the community here this year and setting some goals for ourselves. So we appreciate all of you who have already subscribed. You're free to do so. It really does help us grow. Hope you're having a great day. We'll be back again for more tomorrow. Bye. Hey everyone, this is Adam Ellenboss from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at Mercury's where's my epic pen? Epic pen? You disappeared. Oh, there you are. Okay. So you can see the opposition today, Wednesday, January 22nd, and it's forming in the sky. So if we go forward just a little bit, we're going to see that it is January 23rd, tomorrow, that the opposition perfects. So we'll do some horoscopes tomorrow, looking at the whole sign house placement that this opposition lands in. And you can take everything that you learned today about the opposition and carry it into the meaning of your horoscopes tomorrow. So that will be the way that we take a look at this. So anyway, Mercury in the sign of Cap will then separate from Mars, give it a couple degrees of separation. It'll really be fading by Friday into Saturday. But this is an interesting opposition because at the exact same time that this is taking place, Mercury will also be trine to Uranus. And at the same time, we will see that Mars will be sextile to Uranus. So we have the Mercury Mars opposition coming through at the same time that Mercury and Mars both sextile Uranus. So Uranus is configured strongly with this opposition, which adds a little pop. It creates a little bit more of the unexpected breakthrough, a harmonization of this opposition with Uranus that could make the confrontation of these two planets in an opposition just a little bit more constructive, the ability to work through complex or confusing situations, to find problems or ideas that represent a kind of breakthrough in thinking or a solution to a problem, innovation and revolution outside of the normal way of doing or thinking about something might be present. And this conflict may also constitute something of um, a real shift. More of a Uranian emphasis creates a little bit more meaningful confrontation between these two planets. So keep all of that in mind, and let's talk about 5 things that you can watch for. One, we have Mercury in earthy Capricorn with Mars retrograde in watery Cancer. And so, very basically, we may see the water earth tension come up, which might appear as something like emotionality, the importance or relevance of how we're feeling or what we're sensing or what our bodies or instinctual awareness is telling us about something, is telling us about our needs or our wants or our desires. And on the other hand, we have Mercury in Capricorn, who might be slightly more practical, has a little bit more of the earthy engineer's mindset, and maybe looking at things with a little bit more detached, practical perspective, which means that the two energies may compete. We may see, on the one hand, emotional demands being asked to calm down and be rational and practical, and we may see those emotional, practical dimensions of our personality being asked to consider something that is deeper, more heartfelt, emotional, or we may be asked to set aside a rational, practical view to consider the deeper needs, hurts, or feelings. But anyway, one simple way of breaking down an opposition like this is to consider water versus earth and all that that opposition between the elemental dispositions of these two planets might entail. So let's start there. Number 2 would be verbal, mental, and emotional conflicts. The reason I say verbal, mental, emotional is because we do have Mars and Mercury opposing one another, which can create sharp words, harsh thoughts, mental energy. It's a bit like a debate team where you're fighting with words or debating with ideas. Principled conflicts, differing ideas, shouting matches, these can all happen under a Mercury-Mars opposition. So with Mars being in watery Cancer, we also may consider that verbal, mental, and emotional conflicts, probably with an emphasis on communication and how we're communicating, how well we're communicating, how emotionally intelligent we are communicating, like all of those kinds of themes can come up with Mercury in an earth sign opposing Mars in a water sign. But verbal, mental, emotional conflicts where harsh words or a release of, expletives or something like that can certainly come up. So one thing to watch for with a transit like this, some blurriness there. One thing to watch for with a transit like this is going to be reactionary things that come flying out of our mouth, or harsh words or speech, or emotional verbal abuse as themes or patterns, as well as things like can I intelligently and maturely communicate something of my emotional needs or feelings or frustrations. This could be a moment where emotional frustrations boil over on the level of mind or speech. Number 3, analyzing or breaking something down. Most people don't know that Mars and Mercury in ancient astrology together, their cooperative symbolism was associated with things like math, science, analysis, analytical reasoning, surgery, and anything that is deconstructive, analytical, and cutting mentally or intellectually. And so scrutinizing something, breaking something down into its parts, studying something, having testing done and seeing the results, drawing blood and analyzing the results. These are Mercury-Mars kinds of themes. Mercury-Mars might be an interest in learning biology or physiology. Mercury-Mars can be about mathematical and analytical reasoning. And so the combination of them in an opposition might come up, especially as an intense moment of scrutiny or of criticism or breaking something down and pulling it apart in order to understand it. There can be a mentally combative energy, but also a rigorous, mentally sort of intellectual, rational kind of energy. Now, probably a little less so with Mars in Cancer, but I could see, for example, something like genetic testing. Mars in Cancer might reflect something of an interest in your ancestry, or the DNA testing kits that people order and look and see where their family came from and all that. So anything that would involve an analysis or scrutiny of details and so forth, even like family planning or looking at your budget or analyzing how to better organize your home, all things that could be a nice reflection of Mercury in Capricorn with Mars in Cancer. We could also see tendencies to be verbally, mentally, or emotionally domineering or controlling. And how much should we control versus how much should we let go and trust a process might be something that comes up. The analyzing and breaking down of something can also be associated with the mental tendency to want to control things. Now, number 4 would be a weighty decision. I look at this and I go, yeah, Mercury opposite Mars, you might be confronted with a choice that you have to make that's not easy. You'll be presented with a situation with facts and details and options. And Mercury-Mars opposition reflects the weighing of 2 different paths. The opposition can represent this or that. And the opposition may represent the tension that you feel between getting it right or getting it wrong, or making the right choice or upsetting someone, or what principle will guide the decision that you make. But being faced with kind of at a crossroads, and there's a weighty, consequential decision that has to be made. You have to weigh the information, balance various subjective, personal, emotional elements with practical considerations, and sort of do something, make a choice. That could be easily seen with an aspect like this. Then we have mental and executive energies. Anything that requires creating like if you create a business plan and you say, okay, I'm going to execute this plan, you create a dietary plan, a workout plan, you create a plan for yourself to study and learn something, you come up with an idea that you're going to act upon. You look at the details of something, take that information, and come up with a course of action rooted in how you've analyzed that information. Very Mercury-Mars. Mercury-Mars can also be about the when conflicts and tensions arise and you think to yourself, what's my strategy here? What's the approach? How am I going to handle this stress or tension? What will my course of action be to work through this dilemma? That can be Mercury-Mars. And so the mental executive energy says, I'm going to look at something, analyze it, and then act in a strong way. It may be that with Mars retrograde, there are some prohibitions with respect to what you can do or what you can't do, or how much information you have, or what your limitations are, and how to practically deal with various frustrations and limitations with respect to willpower, or how many resources you have available is also a big part of this. I think, for example, of so many people being displaced from their homes with the fires that have been happening. And I think about, by the way, people have been asking me to comment on that. Maybe I'll say something at the end today, because as I'm making this, I'm a week behind and everything like that. So this is the first week in which I've really even had the space in the production schedule to even say anything about it. But I know you guys know I don't really address current events also all that much, but I will say something about it just for the sake of the timing. Anyway, so when you think about all the people displaced from their homes, Mercury opposite Mars is what comes next? What's the plan of action here? If we've been displaced, we have to start a new path, or we have to return and rebuild, or like what's the action? So when you think about Mercury hitting the retrograde Mars, you may be also thinking about what is Mercury's wisdom or advice or counsel to Mars, given the debilitated position Mars might find itself in, frustrated, dealing with a hurt, dealing with a wound, dealing with loss of some kind. what is the course of action? What's the plan here? That might be something that's coming up right now as a mental executive energy. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how to heal, fix, move forward. Here's how to deal with a tension that Mars retrograde has brought into our life. Here's the mature way through it. So these are things that I see. Okay, so just briefly, the to me, the simplest astrological reflection. There's two ways of talking about things like this, right? One is the human level of things, and there, it's like it's obviously it's a huge tragedy. Many Nightlight students who have lost their homes, displaced from homes. We have a lot of people in our community, in our classrooms. Our Roots and Spheres program recently, we did a lot of sharing. Several people in our Roots and Spheres program on full moon shared about losing their home, being some of them were in a hotel. So yeah, it's been a lot. We gave a donation from the Kickstarter to support the relief efforts. Just the least we could do. But so it was Mars, Mars in a fire sign, hitting the opposition to Pluto, and then retrograding into Cancer in its fall, where it carries the sort of Plutonian release of tremendous destructive force into residential areas and becomes threatening to the lives of people. This is very Mars in a fire sign opposing Pluto, retrograding right into Cancer. That little sequence of events is how we see the development taking place. That's the timeline that makes the most sense. And the only thing I can say, there's other symbols. There's always different ways of seeing things. For example, on a small level, we had the moon in Aries in a mutual reception with Mars in Cancer the first day of the fires, right after the Mars-Pluto opposition finished, and Mars changed signs from fire to water and moved into its fall. Small little detail like that can be meaningful. There's other things, but just purely in terms of tracking the symbolism, I think it's probably the most appropriate one. And if you look back at some of the Mars retrograde videos that we did, anticipating Mars retrograde, I said, one of the things that can happen is there can be things like neighborhoods, homes, families can feel under threat or more vulnerable when Mars is retrograde in Cancer. This is one of the reasons why Mars in Cancer was considered debilitated, because Mars in the domain of the moon is there's a challenging tension there. The moon in Cancer is seeking things like bondedness, safety, nurturance, connectedness. Mars severs and cuts. So that's one of there's a lot of reasons that ancient dignities were created in the way that they were, and they have to do with archetypal tensions between things and the way they tend to manifest in consensus reality, where we have distinctions between pleasure and pain and so forth, which never means that there's not a very constructive way of reading Mars in Cancer. There are plenty of them. But those tensions exist for a reason. Certain archetypes in the way they present are tenser than others, and we experience that tension in a myriad number of ways. But the Mars retrograde in Cancer, with respect to the devastation of a major place in which people live, a city, is appropriate. We have a god associated with death, destruction, and fires in Mars, a very fiery planet, and coming off from the opposition to Pluto, backing into, the neighborhood of Cancer, so to speak. So that's the symbolism as I've seen it. I've heard some other astrologers sensitively reflect on it in other ways too. But just my prayers to all of the people who watch my channel who have been affected or displaced or have lost your homes. There's a sort of helplessness that you feel. And I have to say, and I don't mean this in a trite way at all, but there's a kind of awe, before the destructive forces of nature themselves. It just kind of reminds you, we live in a more tentative space than I think we often are aware of, and it's very humbling. And also can inspire a sort of reverence, a sort of sacredness. There's a podcast that I really, really like called The Emerald. And I forget the guy who does it, but it's easily one of my favorite podcasts. And he had an episode on fire, on the animate force of fire that I think is a kind of salve. And a number of community members in the Nightlight community, classroom students, have mentioned it as something for some people who have been displaced and dealing with it more firsthand than others, that his episode on fire was very healing. So anyway, in case that's a helpful reference, it may not be helpful for everyone, I don't know. But anyway, just a few words about that. Yeah, just prayers to everyone out there. It's a difficult moment, you know, and right in a big part of the Mars retrograde, apparently, this is one of the collective events that we're seeing around it, in my humble opinion. At the very least, we have astrology as a way of understanding that all events in time and place, and circumstance, all events that we experience, we see reflected in the heavens, and we know that we live in a sacred world. It's mysterious. There are tremendous forces of death and destruction that are a part of reality. We have to, just little by little, make some amount of peace with their existence. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm not saying I can do it sitting here on YouTube. But I think astrology helps us with that. I do. So I'll leave it there. We'll see you guys again tomorrow for some horoscopes on this Mercury-Mars opposition, see what we can't do to understand the topical areas of life that they are showing up in our charts right now. All right, take it easy. Bye.
Wow.
Hey, come see us on tour in Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, Austin, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Get your tickets at jimmydore.com. That's where they're the most affordable. So now that Joe Biden has issued blanket pardon, something he vowed he would never do, and they condemned Trump for even considering it, which Trump didn't do. Now I'm going to show you all the time when this is when Trump was president. Remember how people hated preemptive pardons? Let's watch this.
Have you ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime? Who's just an innocent person? Have you ever heard of that? Just somebody getting a blanket pardon and they're an innocent person?
No, it's the president's own family. It's people that have been covering up for the president in addition to his own family.
Is there an innocent explanation for someone to seek preemptive pardons for family members? Would you do that if you knew you were innocent and just worried about outside forces?
The answer to that is going to be no. If you haven't done anything wrong, you sit there and go, what do you need a preemptive pardon for?
If he pardons people preemptively, he's essentially telling the public that these people have committed crimes. And we may not be aware of what they are, but
So does that apply to Liz Cheney? Does that apply to Dr. Fauci? Does that apply to Hunter Biden? Does that apply to everybody in Joe Biden's family he just pardoned? Does that apply to them? Huh.
Yeah, you know what is funny about this? The government is so utterly fucking corrupt that, you know how plea deals work? Most people plea out for crimes. Yeah, if the government was against you and you could get a preemptive pardon and you were innocent, you should get one because you can't ever trust them to be not doing lawfare against you.
Right.
However, these people are guilty as sin. They're the ones singing the praises of the system. And now all of a sudden...
Let's pull up a video. We can pull up a video. What's up, Your Faith? Hope you're doing well, man. Glad you're here. Irie's everywhere, man. He's everywhere. Billion Trump. What to invest in? Some YouTubers got to put up a recent video. I guess we'll watch it straight from the... We can actually watch the announcement. It could be pretty painful, though.
Well, thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here today. We have first full day talk to our country and their investment back from having a nice life.
Fuck me, man.
Well, thank you very much. And it's Stargate. So put that name down in your book and money. Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately. This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. Let me be a new president. I didn't say it, they did. So I appreciate that, fellas. But it'll ensure the future of technology. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. China is a competitor and others are competitors. We want it to be in this country, and we're making it available. I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations, because we have an emergency. We have to get this stuff built. So they have to produce a lot of electricity, and we'll make it possible for them to get that production done very easily at their own plants if they want, where they'll build at the plant, the AI plant, they'll build energy generation, and that will be incredible. But it's technology and artificial intelligence, all made in the USA. Beginning immediately, Stargate will be building the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI, and this will include the construction of colossal data centers, very, very massive structures. I was in the real estate business. These buildings, these are big, beautiful buildings. Are going to employ a lot of people. And physical campuses in locations currently being scouted nationwide. They're making their choices of locations. I think they have their choice. I'd like to ask Larry, Sam, and Masa to say a few words and just talk about a little bit about what they're doing, and if you have any questions, and then we'll go into a couple of other subjects also. But this is, to me, a very big thing. $500 billion Stargate project. I think it's going to be something that's very special. It'll lead to something that could be the biggest of all. So, Larry, maybe we'll start with you, and we'll go down the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We certainly couldn't do this without you. It would simply be impossible. AI holds incredible promise for all of us, for every American. We've actually been working with OpenAI for a while.
It's happening, but he just didn't.
The data centers are actually under construction.
I guess he didn't announce it on the
day,
day, right?
Each building's 500,000 square feet. There are 10 buildings currently being built, but that will expand to 20, and other locations beyond the Abilene location, which is our first location. The kind of applications that we're building, to give you an idea, maybe the most
I think people were
charismatic
expecting a
and the one that I
D1.
think touches us all is
I don't know, man. I'm just starting to learn about all this stuff, man.
Not just maintaining electronic health records, but by
Fuck,
looking
man,
at
I was
electronic
pissed I
health
missed
records,
Trump, man.
understanding the
The Trump
condition
coin?
of the doctors, better understanding the condition of their patients.
Now I have an
being
X
able to,
account.
provide
I'm on
healthcare
Twitter.
plans that are much better than the otherwise
Gotta
would
fucking
be.
following
A
everyone.
doctor in Indian
Just for
River
meme coins now.
Reservation would be able to see how a doctor at
Holy
Memorial
fuck, Elon
Sloan
Musk is
Kettering
really fucking
would
annoying,
treat
though.
the patient, or a doctor at Stanford would treat the patient. We actually provide all of that information, all of that guidance to the doctor. We actually provide all of that information, all of that guidance to the doctors who are treating cancer patients or patients with any other kind of disease, made possible by AI. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm going to pass it to Masa, but this is a very exciting program for Oracle to be a part of. Thank you.
Following the news. No worries. Trump's been signing a lot of executive orders. Trump's
I feel tall now.
he removed the U.S. from the World Health Organization and removed diversity, equity, inclusion, federal requirements, forced people to return back to work in person. Pretty crazy shit, man.
Go for 200.
What the fuck
Now I
is this
came back
guy
with
doing? Yo, we
500.
gotta rewatch this guy in the beginning.
Because this is the 500. We will improve. Well, that's good. That's great. I feel tall now. Thank you. Well, Mr. President, last month I came to celebrate your winning and promised that we will invest $100 billion. And you told me, oh, Masa, go for 200. Yeah. Now I came back with 500. Because this is the, as you said yesterday, this is the beginning of golden age of America. This is one great example, I think, right? We wouldn't have decided to do this. This is the beginning of golden age. We wouldn't have decided unless you won. And yesterday we agreed, we signed to make this happen because of this thing. So we would make this happen. We would immediately start deploying $100 billion with a goal of making $500 billion within next 4 years, within your term, right? Because of your success. So we are very, very excited to do this. And our partner is, of course, SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, and additionally investing partner with MGX. On top of that, we have the technology partner, NVIDIA, and of course, Microsoft has been very, very supportive to SAM and continue to support all our success. This is not just for business. As Larry said, this will help people's life. This will help solving many, many issues, difficult things that otherwise we could not have solved with the power of AI. I think AGI is coming very, very soon. And then after that, that's not the goal. After that, artificial super intelligence will come to solve the issues that mankind would never ever have thought that we could solve. Well, this is the beginning of our golden age. Thank you very much.
I don't have too much to add, but I did want to say I'm thrilled we get to do this in the United States of America. I think this will be the most important project of this era, and as Masa said, for AGI to get built here, to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, to create a new industry centered here. We wouldn't be able to do this without you, Mr. President, and I'm thrilled that we get to. I think it'll be an exciting project. I think we'll be able to do all of the wonderful things that these guys talked about, but the fact that we get to do this in the United States is, I think, wonderful. So thank you very much.
Can you just say one word? I hear so many positive things about what it's going to do for medical research and for solving things, cancer and all the different problems. How will AI help us with the fight against the various problems, diseases, etc.?
These guys can maybe share more about some of the work they're doing there. I think they'll jointly be some of the leaders about driving progress here. But I believe that as this technology progresses, we will see diseases get cured at an unprecedented rate. We will be amazed at how quickly we're curing this cancer and that one and heart disease, and what this will do for the ability to deliver very high quality healthcare, the costs, but really to cure the diseases at a rapid rate, I think will be among the most important things this technology does.
Great. Very good. Thank you.
So we're currently working on. Should I step on this? Okay. All right. No. I'm not that tall. I'm not that tall. Thank you, Mr. President. One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again, using AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Thanks. Yeah, just 1 second. We'll finish up. But these are highly respected guys. I was shocked with Larry because I don't even think Larry does this stuff. You did a very good job for a guy that doesn't do it much, right? But he's so respected, and the group, and it's really an honor. But for Larry to be here and do this is very unusual because he doesn't do this stuff. He doesn't need it. He does, and you don't need it, do you? Huh? You don't need it. But I think it's an honor to the country. It's a great honor that this group, these are the top people, that they're going to do it, and they're going to do it here, and we're going to make it as easy as it can be. A $500 million Stargate project comes in addition to a separate pledge between $100 and $200 billion from, as we know, from Massa that we talked about before. Also 20 billion from DMAC, which was great. And we have many others that are coming. Some I just say, just announce it. It's easier, but with some, I know them and they're so highly respected, I'd rather do it this way. Many would like to do it this way, but we're letting the world know what's happening. This is money that normally would have gone to China or other countries, but in particular China. In total, before the end of my first full business day in Washington in the White House, we've already secured nearly $3 trillion of new investments in the United States, and probably that's going to be 6 or 7 by the end of the week. Tremendous amounts of money are coming in for many things other than even AI. AI seems to be very hot. It seems to be the thing that a lot of smart people are looking at very strongly. And our country will be prospering like never before. I think that's true, and it's going to be the golden age of America. As I say, yesterday we had the most ambitious, action-oriented day of any administration in history. No, there's never been a first day like yesterday, as you know. I signed a sweeping slate of executive orders to stop the invasion of our borders. I launched a government-wide effort to defeat inflation and bring down the cost of daily life and bring down the cost of energy, magnificently bring it down. And when energy comes down, Larry, I'd say generally speaking, when energy comes down, everything else comes down. The prices of food and the prices of everything else come down. Energy is that's the big baby. And we declared a national energy emergency to drill, baby, drill, our term that we use. We're going to drill, baby, drill like never before. We ended destructive DEI mandates across the federal government and returned our country to a merit-based system and a common sense system. As you know, the Supreme Court gave us a decision on merit, where things in this country can be based on merit now instead of a lot of different rules, regulations, and things that really put our country at a big disadvantage. We permanently stopped government censorship and restored free speech. That was signed yesterday. We renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Sounds so beautiful, the Gulf of America, and returned the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley. They took off the name, and he was actually a great president. He was a very, very successful businessman. He ran for governor of Ohio. He won and did a great job as governor, ran for president, and he won. He was assassinated ultimately in his second term, unfortunately. But he was the tariff king, and I don't think he was as bad as I am. I think I believe in him even more than him, but he believed in him very strongly. And he raised massive amounts of money. Our country was at its richest from 1870 to 1913. We had the most. That was when we were the richest, relatively speaking. We were the richest during that period of time. That was tariffs from other countries. And our administration's moving with unprecedented urgency and speed to confront every single crisis facing us, and we'll get the job done. And again, I want to thank Sam and Masa and Larry for being here. It's an honor to have them. And we'll take a few questions if you want.
About some of the executive orders, you would agree that it's never acceptable to assault a police officer,
Sure.
right? So then if I can, among those you pardoned, DJ Rodriguez, he drove a stun gun into the neck of a DC police officer who was abducted by the mob that day. He later confessed on video to the FBI and pleaded guilty for his crimes. Why does he deserve a pardon?
Well, I don't know. Was it a pardon? Because we're looking at commutes and we're looking at pardons. Okay, well, we'll take a look at everything. But I can say this. Murderers today are not even charged. You have murderers that aren't charged all over. You take a look at what's gone on in Philadelphia. Take a look at what's gone on in LA, where people murder people and they don't get charged. These people have already served years in prison. And they've served them viciously. It's a disgusting prison. It's been horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing. I also say this: you go to Portland, where they wrapped police officers, shot police officers. Nothing happened to anybody. You go to Seattle, where they took over a big chunk of the city and people died. Portland, a lot of people died. Wait a minute. And you go also, take a look at Minneapolis, because I was there and I watched it. And if I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city wouldn't even exist today. People were killed and nobody went to jail. So these people have already served a long period of time, and I made a decision to give a pardon. Joe Biden gave a pardon yesterday to a lot of criminals. These are criminals that he gave a pardon to. And you should be asking that question. Why did he give a pardon to all of these people that committed crimes? Why did he give a pardon to the J6 Unselect Committee when they burned and destroyed all documents which showed that they did what was wrong, not me? Wait a minute. Why did they give a pardon to all of his relatives? His brother, who made millions of dollars, to all these different people, he gave pardons. That's the question you should be answering. All right, go ahead. Yeah, please.
If I can just follow up with about your Steve, can I just follow up with that really fast?
No.
I just want to ask
Go
you,
ahead.
you said you will.
Tell us about your meeting with Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune. Did you reach any conclusion on this one big story?
Pretty much. I think we have a good situation now. It's been in some ways made simpler by Los Angeles because they're going to need a lot of money. And generally speaking, I think you'll find that a lot of Democrats are going to be asking for help. So I think maybe that makes it more one-sided. I think we're going to do very well. Look, we're going to take care of Los Angeles. I'm going there. I'm going to North Carolina, which has been abandoned by the Democrats. And I'm going to North Carolina, very importantly, first. I'll be there on Friday. And then I'm going from there to Los Angeles. And then I'm going to Nevada. And I'm really going to Nevada to thank them for the vote, because we won Nevada overwhelmingly. And that's usually a Democrat vote, and I just want to go there to thank the people of Nevada for the big vote. So we'll be making that. Yeah, please.
The leaders of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers were freed following their pardons yesterday. At the time back in 2021, you urged them to stand back and stand by. Is there now a place for them in the political conversation?
Well, we have to see. They've been given a pardon. I thought their sentences were ridiculous and excessive. One of the guys took down a flag that was an anti-American flag, and he was given years in jail. I don't know the exact number, but he was given many years in jail. I thought it was very excessive. And at least the cases that we looked at, these were people that actually love our country, so we thought a pardon would be appropriate, yeah.
President, is it also true in your conversations with Republicans today that you asked them to consider recess appointments for cabinet officials?
I think, yeah, if it's needed. I don't think it's going to be needed. Marco, as you know, got passed overwhelmingly with 99 to nothing, which is pretty amazing. Marco's going to do a great job, Secretary of State. But he just got, I guess he was the first one and just got approved. That's some vote, 99 to nothing, and the nothing was a vote that he would have gotten if we wanted to do it. But you know whose vote that was? Who's doing a great job right now as vice president.
You also talk about some sort of a trade or a deal involving wildfire relief in extension for a debt.
Well, what I really want to have done, I was talking about this with the guys back in the Oval Office. Los Angeles has massive amounts of water available to it. All they have to do is turn the valve, and that's the valve coming back from and down from the Pacific Northwest, where millions of gallons of water a week and a day, even in many cases, pours into California, goes all through California down to Los Angeles, and they turned it off. It's off now. The valve goes, it turns toward the Pacific Ocean, and all that water goes pouring into the Pacific Ocean. If they did what I told them to do, they wouldn't do it because politically they didn't think it was good. I think it's great politically. I think they're dead politically. What they've done, they've destroyed the city. What they've done to that city is unbelievable. The sprinklers, their sprinklers in there like these right here that you see, none of them had any water in them. They didn't have any water. The fire hydrants, 40% of them had no water. The brush was just dry. Everything was dry. The sprinklers on the lawn weren't allowed to even be used. So, you know, everything was dry, and it was an inferno. They created an inferno. So we're demanding that they turn the valve back toward Los Angeles right now. It's not even believable that they haven't done it. Just so you know, they have a valve, and it turns like, think of a sink, but multiply it times many thousands of times the size of it. It's massive. And you turn it back toward Los Angeles. Why aren't they doing it? They either have a death wish, they're stupid, or there's something else going on that we don't understand. But we want the water that they're throwing away to be used for California. And that includes the farmers of California. You know, when you drive up north, you see all of the land. I couldn't believe it. I was with Devin Nunes when he was a congressman and some other congressmen from the area, and we're driving up, and we're on the highway, and I keep looking at these farms, and the land is bone dry, and then you'd see an acre, about an acre or 2 acres, with the most beautiful green plants growing in it, the most beautiful you've ever, it's rich stuff. And you look at the soil, and it's so rich. That soil is almost the equivalent to like Iowa soil. It's phenomenal. It's got no water. But the reason it has no water, I said, do you have a drought? No. I said, what do you mean you don't have a drought? Look at the thing, it's dry as a bone. The reason you have like an acre is because they say you can farm 1 acre, but no more, because they didn't want to waste water. But they throw the water into the Pacific Ocean. These people are crazy. So we're going to be issuing an executive order demanding that they immediately let that water come down through California. Farmers, even people living in Beverly Hills. Now, those people have been a lot of them are wiped out, believe it or not. You know, they were having restrictions, Larry, you know about this. They wanted to restrict you to 38 gallons of water a day. That sounds like a lot, but it's not. When you're a rich person and you like to take a shower, 38 gallons doesn't last very long. And they have all this water, and it's really good water. Up high, Pacific Northwest, some comes in from Canada, a nice country, by the way, comes in from Canada, and it comes all the way through California, and they're restricting it. You even have the half pipes, you know, the half pipes, the cut pipes, big ones, bigger than this room, and they're going all the way down, and they're bone dry, and they could be loaded up with water. No, but isn't it incredible that they don't do it? And it's to protect the Delta smelt. It's a fish that's doing poorly anyway. But I said, how are you protecting the Delta smelt by not giving it water? It's a fish. It needs water. Nobody can answer that question.
President Trump, TikTok, Mr.
Well,
President.
let me do this first.
Are you open to Elon buying TikTok?
Say it?
Are you open to Elon buying TikTok?
I would be if he wanted to buy it, yeah.
And on your inauguration,
I'd like Larry to buy it too. I have the right to make a deal. So the deal I'm thinking about, Larry, let's negotiate in front of the media. The deal, I think, is this. and I've met with owners of TikTok, the big owners. It's worthless if it doesn't get a permit. It's not like, oh, you can take the U.S. The whole thing is worthless. With a permit, it's worth like $1 trillion. So what I'm thinking about saying to somebody is buy it and give half to the United States of America, half, and we'll give you the permit. And they'll have a great partner, the United States. And they'll have something that's actually more valuable because they have the ultimate partner, and the United States will make it very worthwhile for them in terms of the permits and everything else. But so think of it, you have an asset that has no value or has $1 trillion value. It all depends on whether or not the United States gives the permit. So what I'm saying is let the United States give the permit, and the United States should get half. Sounds reasonable. What do you think?
Sounds like a good deal to me, Mr. President.
Yeah, he can afford it too.
Mr. President, you're a president who has long said that you back the blue, but aren't you sending the message that assaulting officers is okay with these pardons?
No, the opposite. In fact, I'm going to be letting 2 officers from Washington Police, D.C. I believe they're from D.C., but I just approved it. They were arrested, put in jail for 5 years because they went after an illegal, and I guess something happened where something went wrong. And they arrested the 2 officers and put them in jail for going after a criminal, a rough criminal, by the way. And I'm actually releasing. No, I am the friend of police, more than any president that's ever been in this office.
More than 400 of the people that you pardoned, though, assaulted officers. So I want to ask you about the Vice President, Jamie Vance. He said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your Vice President wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail. They should not have served, and they've served years in jail, and murderers don't even go to jail in this country. And we had 1,500, we have 16 under review. As you know, we commuted about 16 of them because it looks like they could have done things that were not acceptable for a full pardon. But these people have served years of jail, and their lives have been ruined. And in many cases, listen to me for a second, stop interrupting. They served years in jail, and if you look at the American public is tired of it. Take a look at the election. Just look at the numbers on the election. We won this election in a landslide because the American public is tired of people like you that are just one-sided, horrible people in terms of crime. You don't talk about all the people that have been killed and what happens to those murderers. Murderers get no time. You take a look at some of these DAs. They go after political opponents, but they don't go after people that shoot people in the street. They're caught. They know where they're living. They know everything. They don't even go up to pick them up anymore. They just let them live there. They know all about it. They have their pictures. They have the tape of the shooting, and they don't even go up and you're talking about this. No, we pardoned people that were treated unbelievably poorly. In the history of our country, there's never been anything take place like this. They're still looking for them, but they're not looking for the murderers, the people that are killing everybody. We are, though, and we're getting them out of the country. We just started that. We're getting them out of the country, and they're going to be gotten out of the country fast. They came in illegally from jails and from prisons. They killed many people. Some of them killed many people. About 50% of them killed more than one person. They were released into our country. That's what we're focused on, not the kind of nonsense you're talking about.
You've called for a ceasefire in Ukraine. If Vladimir Putin doesn't come to the table to negotiate with you, will you put additional sanctions on Russia?
Sounds likely.
And do you think that the war should be frozen currently along
The war should have never started. If you had a competent president, which you didn't, the war wouldn't have happened. The war in Ukraine would have never happened if I were president. But that couldn't happen because the election was rigged. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, there's been some debate within your orbit over whether or not to keep or eliminate H-1B visas. What's your position on that? Do you want to keep H-1Bs or do you want to get rid of them?
I like both sides of the argument, but I also like very competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people that may not have the qualifications they do. But I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about engineers. I'm talking about people at all levels. We want competent people coming into our country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high quality waiters. You got to get the best people. Now then you go into people like Larry, and he needs engineers, and Massa needs, and this gentleman needs engineers like nobody's ever needed engineers, right? So we have to have the quality people coming in. Now, by doing that, we're expanding businesses, and that takes care of everybody. So I'm sort of on both sides of the argument, but what I really do feel is that we have to let really competent people, great people come into our country, and we do that through the H-1 program.
To impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico in an effort to force negotiations sooner on USMCA.
No, it's really not on USMCA. It has nothing to do with that. They've allowed, both of them, Canada very much so. They've allowed millions and millions of people to come into our country that shouldn't be here. They could have stopped them, and they didn't. And they've killed 300,000 people last year, my opinion, have been destroyed by drugs, by fentanyl. The fentanyl coming through Canada is massive. The fentanyl coming through Mexico is massive. And people are getting killed, and families are being destroyed. I mean, the son gets killed, and the family is a basket case for the rest of their lives. I mean, I've seen mothers that thought they'd heal. They never heal. They say it gets worse with time. It gets worse with time. They lose their boy, they lose their baby, they lose their young daughter to fentanyl poisoning. And I had that talk with President Xi the other day, too, of China. I said, we don't want that crap in our country. We got to stop it. I would have stopped it. I had a deal with him where he was going to give the maximum penalty, which in China is the death penalty for drug dealing. And he was all said he was going to give the maximum penalty to fentanyl dealers. If they send to the United States, they were going to get the death penalty. And of course, Biden didn't pick that up. I had that deal all done. It was all wrapped up. We were going to have it done. And then the election went, let's put it nicely, didn't go the proper way. I'm trying to be nice about it. It was rigged. And we had an incompetent president elected, and he never followed up on that deal. But he should have followed up, because if they got the death penalty, they wouldn't be sending fentanyl to Mexico, Canada, and other places. We're thinking about that too. We're talking about a tariff of 10% on China based on the fact that they're sending fentanyl to Mexico and Canada.
How soon on those tariffs?
Probably February 1st is the date we're looking at. For Mexico and China, we're talking about approximately 25%.
Update on the Gaza ceasefire, and are you planning to travel to the Middle East soon?
We're thinking about going to the Middle East, not yet. We have a thing called the hostages are coming back going on right now, and they are coming back. Some of them have been very damaged. You look at the young lady with her hand practically blown off. You know how that happened, right? Did you know how that happened? When you find out, you're not going to be too happy because it was terrible. But the hostages are starting to come back. If I weren't here, they wouldn't be back ever. They would have never come back. They would have all died. If this were done a year earlier, if Biden would have done this deal a year and a half, 2 years ago, or frankly, it should have never happened. October 7th should have never happened. Nobody should be dead. But through weakness, they allowed it to happen, and then it was a disaster from them. But you go back just 6 months ago, many of these young people were living. Young people don't die like that. They're just dying. And young people aren't dying at 22 and 23 years old. They don't die. But now they're dying, and you wonder why they're dying. They're being killed, and they have been killed. But they say 6 months ago, you would have had 11 more living hostages. Think of that. 6 months ago, but Biden couldn't get it done, and it was only the imposition that I put on as a deadline that got it done. But it's a very sad situation. It should have never happened. I'll tell you, 2 things should have never happened. 3 things. Inflation should have never happened. It would have never happened, except for what they did to energy and their crazy spending. And Ukraine would have never happened. Never. By the way, Russia never would have gone into Ukraine. I had a very strong understanding with Putin that would have never, ever happened. He disrespected Biden. Very simple. He disrespects people. He's smart. He understands. He disrespected Biden. And also, the Middle East would have never happened because Iran was broke. They had no money. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. It would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. But it did happen. So this is the cards I've been given. And we're getting the hostages back. That would have never happened under Biden. They would have never come back. They were just dying not that slowly. They were dying or being killed. But that was what was happening.
Are you going to keep sending weapons to Ukraine, or are you going to turn off the tap soon?
Well, we're looking at that. We're talking to Zelensky. We're going to be talking with President Putin very soon. And we'll see how it all happens. We're going to look at it one thing I do feel, the European Union should be paying a lot more than they're paying because under Biden, I mean, we're in there for $200 billion more. Now, it affects them more than it affects us. We have an ocean in between, right? Little thing called an ocean. The European Union should equalize. We're in there for $200 billion more than the European Union. I mean, what are we, stupid? I guess the answer is yes, because they must think so. But the European Union takes advantage of us tremendously on trade, and they now take advantage of, and always have. If I didn't get involved years ago, my first term, one of the first things I noticed was that they're not paying enough. They're not paying, and a lot of those countries weren't even paying. The NATO countries, they weren't paying. Only 7 out of 28 were paying. We were one of them, and Poland was one, and they had a few of them that were paying, and some were paying very proudly. Usually, the closer to the borderline of Russia they were, the faster they paid, okay? The ones that were further away tended not to pay so fast. And one thing on that, I think they should lift their number not to 2%, but to 5%. NATO should be at 5%, not at 2%. 2% is ridiculous, yeah.
The U.S. President Xi, in your conversation about Ukraine, you asked him to get involved in helping settle that. Can you tell us about that?
I did, yeah. I said, you ought to get it settled because he's not done very much on that. He's got a lot of power. Like we have a lot of power. I said, you ought to get it settled. We did discuss it, yeah.
Do you intend to continue selling products that benefit yourself personally while you're president?
Well, I don't know if it benefited. I don't know where it is. I don't know much about it other than I launched it. I heard it was very successful. I haven't checked it. Where is it today?
You made a lot of money.
How much?
Several $1 billion, it seems like, in the last several days.
Several billion? That's peanuts for these guys.
You talked about the letter from President Biden. Can you give us some sense, broadly speaking?
Yeah, he wrote me a nice letter. I mean, I did open it last night. And I didn't know. Peter said, did you get the letter? I said, wait a minute, let's see the letter. It's sort of a tradition. You put it in the drawer, especially of the beautiful Resolute desk, right? And I opened the drawer, and there it was. It said to number 47. And it was a very nice letter. I mean, I could show it because I think it was a nice letter. Maybe I will. I think just basically, it was a little bit of an inspirational type letter, you know. Enjoy it, do a good job. Important, very important, how important the job is. But I think it was a nice letter. I think I should let people see it because it was a positive for him in writing it. I appreciated the letter.
Were security concerns at all a factor when deciding to move your inauguration indoors?
No, not at all. No, not at all. It was just cold. Look, if we would have, you know, I just went out to the helicopter, right, we said goodbye. That's a tradition. As long as before it used to be a stagecoach, and then helicopters came along. But that's been a tradition. You go out and you do that. And we stood there for 10 minutes, and I'll tell you what, people would not have been able to get through that day. That was cold. It was sort of interesting. Don't let the sun fool you. Tell me something. Sunny days can get very cold, can't they? Because that was so freezing yesterday. You couldn't have gotten through it. It would have been. And the answer is no, it wasn't secured. With that being said, I thought the Capitol, the Rotunda, was beautiful. 72 degrees, unbelievable sound. You know, it's like being in an opera house. I could see people wanting to do it there rather than outside.
Why did they remove John Bolton's security clearance, sir?
because I think there was enough time. We take a job. You take a job, you want to do a job. We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we? I thought he was a very dumb person, but I used him well because every time people saw me come into a meeting with John Bolton standing behind me, they thought that he'd attack them because he was a warmonger. He's the one that got us involved, along with Cheney and a couple of others, convinced Bush, which was a terrible decision, to blow up the Middle East. You know, we blew up the Middle East and we left. We got nothing out of it except a lot of death. We killed a lot of people, and John Bolton was, one of those guys, a stupid guy. But no, you can't have that for life. You shouldn't expect it for life.
With President Zelensky, will that take place here, and when and where will you meet with
I don't know. I mean, look, President Zelensky would like to have peace. He's told me that very strongly. He'd like to have peace, but it takes two to tango. We'll see what happens. Anytime they want, I'll meet. I'd like to see that end. Millions of people are being killed, and they're being killed. It's a vicious situation, and they're now largely soldiers. A lot of people have been killed in the cities. They look like demolition sites. Buildings, massive buildings bombed and coming down. The thing with Ukraine is that many more people died than you're reporting. You're not reporting the real numbers, and I'm not blaming you for that. I'm blaming maybe our government for not wanting to release those numbers. Many more people died than what you know about. When those big buildings come down and they say 2 people were injured, no. Many people, thousands of people are being killed. But the real killing now is on the war front. It's a very flat land. And the only thing that stops a bullet is somebody's body. And you have young soldiers. So Russia's lost about 800,000 soldiers now. Ukraine's lost about 600 or 700,000. I think the numbers are low that they're giving out. But they've lost massive numbers of young soldiers. And that war should stop. It's very flat, it's beautiful farmland, and it's flat and really beautiful in a different kind of a way, but they don't have any protection. The only thing that stops a bullet is a body, and those bodies are stopping a lot of bullets, and they're being decimated, both sides.
In your conversation with President Xi, what did you tell him in terms of when to expect tariffs, and what can he do to avoid it?
About which one? About tariffs? We didn't talk too much about tariffs, other than he knows where I stand. Look, I put large tariffs on China. I've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars. Until I was president, China never paid not 10 cents to the United States. With me, they paid $600 billion or so, or more than that even, of tariffs. And if I didn't do that, you wouldn't have a steel mill open in the United States right now. You wouldn't have one steel mill open in the United States. So what I did is I saved the steel industry. I saved other industries too with other tariffs. Other countries are big abusers also. It's not just China. China's an abuser, but the European Union is very, very bad to us. They treat us very, very badly. They don't take our cars. They don't take our cars at all. They don't take our farm products, essentially. They don't take very much. We have a $350 billion deficit with the European Union. They treat us very, very badly. So they're going to be in for tariffs. It's the only way you're going to get back. It's the only way you're going to get fairness. You can't get fairness unless you do that. But the European Union's treated us very badly. But essentially everybody treats us badly. Everybody treats us badly. Yes, go ahead. Because we allow them to. Because we've had stupid people doing this, and we can't have. I'd like to have these 3 people negotiate for us, just for 1 week, and we'd be a rich country again. But we'll be rich.
Mr. President, on AI data centers, will you rescind President Biden's executive order that opens up federal land?
On which centers?
On data centers. Will you rescind President Biden's executive order that opens up federal lands for data centers and energy production?
No, I wouldn't do that. That sounds to me like it's something that I would like. I'd like to see federal lands opened up for data centers. I think they're going to be very important. Again, we have a lot of competition for that. So it's an honor to have these 3 great people, great CEOs and great geniuses, all 3, It's an honor that they want to come to our country, but we're going to make it as easy as we can for them because other countries want them to. I'm going to have to go now. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Do you have TikTok on your phone?
I think I'll get it right next.
Sure. The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others. Thank you, sir. I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people, sir.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Full pardon or commutations?
Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research. Nice to see you again. So this is a big one. Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they get them. We hope they come out tonight, frankly. You're expecting it. Approximately 1,500 people. Six commutations.
Were there any cases you did not commute or pardon of people?
We're looking at different things, but the commutations would be the ones that we'll take a look, and maybe it'll stay that way, or it'll go to, full pardon.
And the order does require the Bureau of Prisons to act immediately on receipt of the pardons and commutation orders. Sir, this is an
Why don't we get that down so they can get them going right now?
Yes, sir.
Is that okay?
Yep, absolutely. This is a proclamation guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion based on the current crisis at the southern border. It invokes various executive powers relating to the ongoing invasion at the southern border.
Mr. President, what makes you confident that those are not going to be blocked by the courts?
I don't think they will. I don't think they can be. They're very straight up. Why don't you take that and go over here? Can you get him over here, not on the side angle? Do you mind? Just go right over here with your friends. Okay?
Sir, this is an executive order realigning the United States refugee admission program to better align with American principles and American interests.
Okay?
Thank you, sir. This next executive order is about protecting America from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. Again, crisis at the border, but it goes beyond that and it implicates other executive powers as well.
Okay?
President Trump, if cartels are now going to be seen as foreign terror organizations, would you think about ordering U.S. Special Forces into Mexico to take them out?
Could happen. Stranger things have happened.
Mr. President,
And that was actually
that Maduro would accept Venezuelans.
Say it.
How will you make sure that Maduro will accept Venezuelans?
Well, we're going to see on Venezuela. We're looking at Venezuela very strongly. It's a country I know very well for a lot of reasons, and it's, boy, it was a great country 20 years ago, and now it's a mess, right?
Sir, can we expect ICE raids starting tomorrow in major cities?
What does that mean?
Can we expect ICE raids in major cities?
I don't want to say when, but it's going to happen. Has to happen, or we're not going to have a country left.
This is actually an executive order designating the cartels and other organizations to be foreign terrorist organizations.
That's a big one.
Yes, sir.
People have wanted to do this for years. So they are now designated as terrorist organizations, foreign. And Mexico probably doesn't want that. But we have to do what's right. They're killing our people. They're killing 250, 300,000 American people a year, not 100, like has been reported for 15 years. It's probably
Elon's going crazy. Elon Musk fucking retweeted this. So insane. Let me, one sec. This fucking guy. God. Come on, man. Come on, man. How many million views? Like, it's probably like 10 million views or something. Fucking 40 million views. Holy jeez, man. 44,000. Did you see her tweet? We gotta like pull up her tweet, man. Her tweet was crazy. We gotta fucking find this dumb bitch. Her fucking name. Like, she was such a dumb bitch. Let me show you why. Look at this. Look at this fucking dumb bitch. Look at this. Like, look at what she fucking writes here. Such a fucking dumb bitch, man. God damn. What is what is going on Twitter, man? What the fuck is this? What the
300,000.
This is an executive.
Mexico doesn't want that. How are you going to deal with this?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them.
Sir, this is an executive order entitled Protecting the American People Against Invasion, which again deals with the southern border and the unprecedented admission of illegal aliens across the southern border.
What do you see the biggest national security threat to the U.S., Mr. President? What's going to be your priority on foreign policy?
Say?
What's going to be your priority on foreign policy? What do you see as the biggest
Well,
national
foreign
security
policy is a big statement. I mean, my priority on foreign policy, it's going to be to keep America safe. Very simple. It's a big question, though. That's a very big question.
Who is going to be the first foreign leader that you plan to meet, or who you're going to call tomorrow on your first day in
I've
office?
already been meeting people. I've been meeting them. I've been talking to them. I met with Prime Minister Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau. I met with numerous foreign leaders. Go ahead.
Sir, this.
Daddy's home. Daddy's home. Daddy's home. Daddy's home. Daddy's home.
This next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
Yeah, that's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the course? That one is likely to see.
Could be. We think we have good grounds, but you could be right. I mean, you'll find out. It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But, you know, we'll see. We think it.
Oh, they blocked it. On Facebook. Put it on Facebook.
Up front now is Jackson Reffitt. He turned his father, Guy Reffitt, into the FBI for participating in the insurrection. And Guy Reffitt is currently in prison, serving a 6.5-year sentence for rioting at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. So obviously convicted and serving his sentence. Jackson, I appreciate your time. So here we are, and Trump is announcing pardons for January 6 defendants. That this could include your father, who's serving a 6-year sentence, a 6.5-year sentence as we speak. What's your reaction?
Well, I'm honestly flabbergasted that we've gotten to this point. I mean, I'm terrified. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've taken as many precautions as I could recently. I've picked up a gun. I've moved, and I've gotten myself away from what I thought would be a dangerous situation and staying where I thought my dad could find me, or other people, you know, people that are going to feel so validated by these actions, by this pardon. I'm just so filled with paranoia about what could happen. I've been waiting all day from a call from the DOJ to just figure it out and know what to do next, because right now I don't, other than just to, you know, sit around and, you know, talk about it.
I mean, you're scared. I mean, you're right. I mean, you're scared about what could happen from your father specifically, or someone else.
Yeah. I don't know what other people are thinking. I don't even know what my father's thinking. I mean, I've talked to my father before, but I had thought it gotten better, and it really hadn't. My dad is still involved with these militias. He still talks with, you know, a martyr status. He has no change. He's more galvanized than ever that I've seen. My mom too. My sisters are waiting outside the jail cell right now, and you know, I feel for them, and I know who they are, and I love them, but I can't feel safe. And I'm sure hundreds of other families, thousands of other people that have been affected by these people and their actions. and what could happen when they're released, I mean, who knows? I mean, you know, my dad once called me a traitor, and you know, he said traitors get shot. So that's, you know, all I can think about recently. And
Trump says he's the friend of the police. Do you think that's true?
Trump says a lot of things. Sometimes lies are more.
Who are these people? Who are these people?
We have very good grounds.
Sir,
People have wanted to do this for decades.
Sir, this is a proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States.
That's a big one. A lot of big ones, huh? You know what that means, right?
President Trump, did President Biden leave you a letter?
He may have. Wait. Don't they leave it in the desk? I don't know. Oh.
What's in there?
Thank you, Peter. It could have been years before we found it. Wow.
of your neighborhood, the fire is coming right behind it. And this is what this is doing. This is laid out almost horizontal. So, you know, once that smoke is over the top of these structures they're showing, that could be problematic.
Yeah, and you know, Bob, sorry to interrupt, but I'm looking at the winds. You know, they're still in that 33 mile per hour gust range right now. And we've just heard, by the way, Bob, that the fire has now been updated to 500 acres. So it's getting bigger by the minute. But again, the winds, you know, Bob, they're going to get stronger this afternoon and evening.
Yeah, that's going to be problematic because this is already off to a good start. And if they don't pinch this off, keep it from getting to the freeway, I mean, there's a whole lot of homes there. They're like manufactured homes, regular single-family dwellings. Those homes march right up the hill now. It used to be at the bottom of the hill is where they stop, but now they go right on up the 5 mile. So this is with the winds that are going to increase, that's going to be problematic. They're doing a good job of painting it now on the edges, so they're going to try to just contain it.
Yeah, we just saw that fire retardant drop. Bob Goldman, thank you so much for being on with us. I'm going to ask you to stand by for a moment because we have Dana Dirks on the phone with Angeles National Forest Fire PIO. Thank you so much for being on with us. What can you tell us about this fire and also your response?
Well, firefighters are actively working to put this blaze out as quickly as possible. There are evacuation orders that are currently ongoing right now. We suggest that folks go online to Protect Genesis, Genesis Protect, and that's spelled SYS on the back of Genesis. If you just Google it, people can put in their phone numbers, or not their phone numbers, they can put in their addresses, and the address will tell you if you're in an evacuation zone or an evacuation warning area. So that is something that's really important to make sure that people pay close attention to.
How much? Who are you? Are you actually taking the lead? The Forest Service? Are you taking the lead with this fire for it at this point?
I don't have all of the details just yet, but I can certainly share that once we have more details. But my understanding is yes, that's what's happening on the scene.
Do you have a sense of what resources are being dedicated to this fire and where they are now? How many are in position? Who is en route? How many are being called up now?
From my location, I don't have all of those details yet. This is still fairly early in the fire. We should have more information soon.
And we have up a map that shows the evacuation order and warning area. And our Rich Prickett has been overhead, and he's been saying that the area where the fire is actively burning is not a populated area. Can you give us a sense of how many homes or neighborhoods are threatened currently, or that you're worried about, that are populated with people that live there?
I have fairly limited information at this time, so I don't have that information handy. We can certainly share it once we have more information.
Okay.
All right, Dana Dirks from the Angeles National Forest, Public Information Officer. Thanks for the information.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
All right. All right, let's check in with Samantha. She has some more information about evacuation orders.
Hi there. We are looking on the screen now at the perimeter of this fire, but if we take the surface, I can show you the evacuation warnings, which have turned into evacuation orders for some areas, and the warnings have expanded. And we can take a look here at the Golden State evacuation warning area. That is now on the other side of the 5 freeway from where this fire is burning. But everything up along the 5 freeway, that includes Paradise Ranch area, is under evacuation order, and that is fairly new. Also, I was just listening to Ms. Dirks talking about the Genesis.com resource. What we're looking at on your screen now is the CAL FIRE resource. According to Genesis, it looks like some other areas which may not be populated, but I'm going to list them off anyway. Sloan, Hillcrest, Romero, which is in the Halsey Canyon area, as well as the Cambridge area, are now under evacuation order. They do suggest that you go to alertla.org to sign up for evacuation orders and warnings if you live in this area. For those who live in Santa Clarita, they're very familiar with this. We've heard some people saying they say goodbye to their home as they go into work during these high wind events. Wow, what a drop we're seeing on the left side of your screen. Just to note, when that happens, people in the newsroom clap. We are very excited to see these aircraft up and working to create a perimeter around the fire zone there. But back to the map, Santa Clarita Valley is just to the south of this. Of course, the hope is that this will not enter into populated areas. And on the map, on the top of your screen there, that is where we're seeing the evacuation order expand and warnings expand. The yellow is evacuation warning. That's now up against the 138 in Antelope Valley, and on the west side, the Caswell area along the 5 freeway is now under evacuation warning. That also includes Sandburg and 3 Points. Those areas under evacuation warning now. They say that evacuation warning is being issued to most areas north of Castaic Lake. That is not new. We've been looking at that on the map and from Sky 5. And they say, be prepared to leave. We heard retired captain from LA County, Bob Goldman, say when you see that smoke heading over your home, that means the fire is coming in your direction. Be ready to move and get that go bag ready. Brush fire southeast of Castaic Lake. Let's see, they have on this evacuation warning map. They're just repeating, they meaning the National Forest Service, CAL FIRE, all the different resources I have to look at this Hughes fire incident just keep repeating themselves, saying the evacuation warning is north of Castaic Lake. Be prepared to leave. So when I see any specific updates on this map, one that we saw in the last few minutes was all the areas south are now under evacuation order, not just warning. And one thing I think is pretty cool about this CAL FIRE map is you can see where the aircraft are on the map. So that little top right-ish area of your screen, we're seeing where these aircraft are flying, how they're doing perimeter mapping of this fire. Everything around Castaic Lake, Castaic Lagoon under evacuation order, not warning. And as Kai was mentioning, Kai, I believe you said 30-mile-per-hour gust range. We can see that on this map as well, where these winds are picking up 14 mile per hour on Castaic Lake Drive. Just near the 5 freeway, we're seeing 2 miles per hour, but that's updating as the winds are coming in on this CAL FIRE map. So I'll keep an eye on these evacuation warnings, the evacuation orders, let you know if those are expanding. Just wanted to zoom in here on the populated area near the 5 freeway at Castaic Junction. This is Newhall Ranch Road, and that is where the evacuation warning butts up against. And some industrial businesses, limited residential in this particular area, but if I just zoom down, you can see how close that gets to Magic Mountain Parkway and all the neighborhoods in Santa Clarita. So the evacuation warnings now expanded down to Newhall Ranch Road, Castaic Junction, the 5 freeway, and that looks like, oh, let's see, Mayo Drive. The name is covered up underneath the wind miles per hour, but the evacuation
goes right through that evacuation order area. Obviously, people have to be able to get out, but it does make you wonder what's going to happen with the 5.
Right, and evacuation orders are for Cambridge, Castaic Lake, Green Hill, Hasley, Hillcrest, Paradise Ranch, Ridge, Romero, Sloan, and it's important to know your zone because a lot of times we'll see numbers given out or letters and numbers. For example, E008 is a zone around Castaic Lake, not populated, but if you are near a zone or in a zone, you should know the number, and you can find that at CAL FIRE. Evacuation warnings are still in effect for Bitter Canyon, Charlie Canyon, Golden State, and zones 4, 5, 9, 11, and 11A and B.
Sam, great information. Thank you so much, and really helpful how you were zooming in the map like that and showing us with granularity. So really, thank you so much.
And I got to tell you, Castaic Lake being there, what a blessing.
Yeah.
Especially as Kai said, it looked like the fire's kind of burning into that V that makes up Castaic Lake, which is certainly is going to help the firefighters out a lot. But there is concern with the wind blowing, embers cross that lake, and then you've got a problem, and that's when you got to really get concerned about the populated areas.
Right, absolutely, and it looks like we have a camera on the ground now that is showing the very large plume of smoke from the ground. If our producers could tell us where that camera is, this is sort of the first ground shot that we've had. This is Ridge Route Road, north of North Lake Elementary, where we have this camera position showing what the smoke is like from the ground in one of the surrounding areas. And Glenn, you were looking at video showing what people could see from Thousand Oaks, a big plume of smoke billowing in the sky.
The view for people in Thousand Oaks, I mean, it's like the whole sky to the north, looking northeast from where they are. It's just all smoke, all black. Almost looks like a mushroom cloud. It's so big.
And this is, for folks in the Simi Valley, the Santa Clarita Valley, the San Fernando Valleys, it's scary because we are, of course, we've got some fire PTSD happening right now as well. So, and as Captain Bob said, if that smoke is laying up over you in a northerly direction or northeasterly direction, it's time to think about the possibility of evacuating your neighborhood. But I am very optimistic. Again, this fire is headed towards the Castaic Lake, and the fixed wing are doing a great job right now getting a lot of this retardant on some of these areas to prevent the fire from spreading any further. But the winds, unfortunately, are really active right now, gusts of up to 33, 35 miles per hour. And as we head into the 4 o'clock hour, probably earlier than that, maybe 3:30, we'll probably see these gusts making their way up to 40, 45, and 50 miles per hour. And the winds are going to stay continuous through the midnight hour into Thursday morning, into Thursday afternoon. So unfortunately, this particular area is going to continue to see gusty northeasterly winds through Thursday afternoon, as well as, of course, extremely dry conditions. And you could see some of that retardant right there at the bottom of your screen.
Now, are these winds going to continue to blow in the same direction, or is there going to be any kind of shift?
Yeah, it's just a northeasterly pattern right now, and we'll probably continue to see that throughout the rest of the afternoon. But there are little shifts to directly northeast, northeast, directly northeast. So not much of a huge change, and we will not be seeing an onshore flow arriving until we get to late Thursday into Friday. And that's going to be a big change in the forecast. Once we make our way through the day tomorrow, these Santa Ana winds are going to give daytime highs in this area anywhere between 75 to 80 degrees. So it's going to get really warm through the entire day tomorrow here in Southern California. And then once we head into Friday and the weekend, well, things are going to drastically go the other way. We're going to see temperatures really drop into the upper 50s for Saturday and Sunday. And we've got rain chances coming to Southern California. That'll happen Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night into the following Monday morning. So we could see relief from Mother Nature coming, but of course we are going to see them getting a better handle on that before we get to Friday. They'll get a better handle on this fire well before that happens. But again, look at these uphill areas. The fire is really spreading towards many of these fire roads right now.
Yeah, and we're seeing all of the air support, the water dropping helicopters, the super scoopers are out there, the fixed wing aircraft have been dropping fire retardant. Rich Prickett was making a comparison in the Palisades fire to days after the start of the fire when it flared up again and it was threatening Mandeville Canyon, and the winds were not too strong and they were able to have a lot of air support. And that was made a huge difference in, there was one home destroyed in Mandeville Canyon, but it made a huge difference in getting that fire under control.
Yeah. All right, the time now is 11:59. Welcome to the KTLA 5 News at Noon. I'm Glenn Walker, along with Lauren Lister and Kai Goldberg. You're looking live up in Castaic. This is what they're calling the Hughes Fire. It is burning or started just north, a little northeast of the one arm of Castaic Lake. And this thing has exploded to more than 500 acres in, I think, about less than an hour. This has been something else.
Yeah, first report, 10:38 this morning. LA County Fire says they started getting the calls. As Glenn mentioned, it's now more than 500 acres. If you're on the 5 freeway in this area, you are impacted. You are seeing this. If you live in this area, there are both mandatory evacuation orders and warnings that our Samantha Cortese is telling us about. And all of this, look at that, looks like the Chinook. It drops 3,000 gallons of water each time. Kai Goldberg in all of this has been saying there's a red flag warning, and the big issue right now is the low humidity. 8%, I think you said?
Yeah, anywhere, it's fluctuating between 6 and 8%, which is just extremely dangerous. There's just no two ways about it, and that's why the red flag has been now extended into tomorrow on Thursday afternoon as we look at another just beautiful target strike right there from that helicopter, just doing a great job. And of course, there's Phos-Chek, rather retardant in that particular vicinity as well. And that's to slow the fire down. It doesn't prevent it, it doesn't put it out. We always want to remind our viewers and our listeners to know that the retardant doesn't stop a fire, but it certainly does slow it down. And getting out in front of the fire line is really important, because the fire, ahead of the fire, it's so hot that it just burns the areas in front of it anywhere between about 100 to 500 feet in front of it. So again, they're getting some really good drops on a lot of these flames.
Yeah, we just saw 3 aircraft, boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And I mean, that little section where that fire was burning, they completely snuffed it out. And what's so tricky about this too is they got to factor in the wind.
Yeah.
You got to go a little bit ahead of, and kind of, it's almost like you're passing the fire where you want it to drop when you drop your water.
Yeah, and they're doing a good job, because the wind behind the fire lines is strong, but as it reaches a lot of the tops of these little bluffs and hills, it starts to kind of wane just a little bit. You can see the smoke right there kind of going up a little bit more vertically than behind the fire lines, where it's a little bit more horizontal. So that allows a lot of the fixed wing and the helicopter pilots to get a good jump on the front lines of this fire that is just racing across these ridges near Castaic Lake.
I'm wondering if we can go back up to Rich Prickett. You're giving us a great overview. What is it like on the 5 right now? Is traffic still flowing? Are they limiting that? Or it seems like it would be very, very smoky, and part of it is in an evacuation order area. We don't have Rich with us right now. We can't hear from him. We're just getting his pictures. But we will check in on that in a short time when we do reestablish with him. But you're getting this overview of just how large this fire has become, more than 500 acres.
And again, burning in a southeast direction from southwest direction from the northeast. Okay, I think we have some more information on evacuation orders from Sam.
I just wanted to answer your question about traffic. CHP Newhall just tweeted out some information that they're working east of the 5 near Templin Highway in Castaic, of course referring to the fire. They say this may impact north and southbound traffic, causing a full closure. So they are considering fully closing the 5 freeway. If you have to travel through the area, CHP Newhall is advising please use caution, obey traffic safety laws, as they are considering shutting down the 5 freeway both north and southbound traffic. As of 2 minutes ago, it was still open. They mentioned it's affected by the heavy smoke. They advise people, of course, please drive safely. And as far as current closure due to the Hughes fire, it's Ridge Route Road at Lake Hughes and Templin, Lake Hughes at Pine Canyon, Dry Gulch at San Francisco Canyon Road, and those are the street names and closures as the evacuation orders and warnings continue. But we see from Sky 5, traffic is still moving. CHP Newhall says that could change. Please just be aware of the traffic safety laws, they say. They say use caution. This could cause a full closure of the 5 near Templin Highway and in the Castaic area. Warnings have been expanded to the north, evacuation orders and warnings. So we'll keep you posted on any updates there. But I heard you guys talking about traffic, and I just wanted you to know CHP is considering closing north and southbound 5. Still open at the moment, but they want people to steer clear of the fire.
Important information there, Sam. Thank you so much for that. We'll check back in with you in a moment on evacuations too. We now want to go to Sheila Kelleher-Burko, who is on the phone with us, captain with LA County Fire. Thank you so much for joining us. What can you tell us about this fire as we are watching the firefight go on and these flames growing?
Well, as predicted with this red flag warning, we have winds at speeds of over 30 miles an hour gusting through this area, which is really pushing this fire. We have put a lot of resources on that. We probably have about 10 helicopters. We have the heli-tankers on there, plenty of engines on their way and actually there. So we are throwing everything we can at it, and we have we're in unified command with Angeles National Forest.
I would have to think that your resources are spread pretty thin at this point, and you've got a lot of very tired firefighters.
Well, listen, you know, the way our system is set up, we've got mutual aid coming from all over that have been down here helping us with the Palisades fire as well as the Eaton fire. And because of that, we've got great rotation. So the firefighters that are in here may be weary with the thought of it, but their bodies are ready to go. They've had their rest, and we have had tons of support from all over the state and the western United States helping with the other fires. So our resources are ready in place, as well as Angeles National.
We are seeing this fire after a few weeks that have been very devastating and traumatizing for other communities in the area. As you are looking at the factors here, what are you assessing as the greatest concern, and maybe anything working for you in this firefight?
I think for us is we don't have a PDS situation with the winds where we're gusting up to 80, 90, 100 miles an hour where helicopters and our aircraft can't fly. Right now, they are safe to fly, and they're going to be flying for a while, so that's working for us, so they can really continue to hit this fire from up above. That's really important. The wind is blowing out of the northeast, and it's blowing southwest, so it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking at this from my computer and above, so to see what residential areas are affected. So what I do want to recommend is please everybody get on Genesis Protect, GENAY or ASYS Protect, and look at the map. There's a zone map there that shows you who's under orders and who is warning. So if you're under orders, pack your stuff and go. And if you are in a warning, you need to get your things ready.
I would think the biggest concern here is just trying to keep this fire from jumping over the lake, because that's where the population area starts.
Absolutely. And as you see, it's moving down, you know, where it's impacting the 5, and that impacts traffic and all the things that are going there. So I guarantee you the bulk of this aerial assault is going to be at the flank that would be potentially headed towards homes.
And I'm wondering too what difference it makes having the bodies of water right there. This is right near Castaic Lake and a number of other lakes.
That's always helpful for that quick refuel of water and to get back up and flying. So those quick turnarounds for drops are really important.
One thing I want to ask you, we had a retired LA County Fire official on, and he was saying if you are seeing smoke over your home in your area, it is a good idea to pack up and be ready. Do you agree with that advice?
Yeah, I think it depends where that is. Where that smoke is pushing, right? If it's inundating your neighborhood and it's coming over hard, get on, look real quick, see what your zone map is telling you. That's the authority, that's the resource on how to guide you on where you need to go.
Yeah, he also had
when you need to go. Yeah.
he also had an interesting point. You see the smoke coming over you, but also from your house, look north to northeast. That's most likely where it's going to come from. And that's pretty much
That's the way. Yeah.
with
that's
Santa
the way the
Ana's.
winds are blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The winds right now are blowing out of the northeast, and they're pushing the fire southwest. So that's kind of your trajectory. So you're looking at that. We've got, like I said, we've got great resources. If you go to fire.ca.gov, that's, Cal Fire's map, LA County, fire.lacounty.gov is another resource. All those resources that are out there right now are really helpful in assessing where that fire is, the latest information, it pops up for you. But again, those evacuation maps, Genesis or protect.genesis.com.
All right, Captain. We certainly appreciate the information, again, from the LA County Fire Department. Continue up the good work. I know this has been a rough couple of weeks for fire departments here in Southern California and all the people that have come in to help.
Right. It's a battle. That's what we're here for. That's what we're trained for. And we're here for our citizens, for sure.
I do want to ask real quick before we wrap up. Do you have a sense of how many of your engines that you've called or resources on the ground are in position versus on the way versus maybe those that have been called from other areas and being told to head there, just to give a sense of where things stand right now?
Well, on scene, we have a full first alarm, which is over 7 engines, 3 helicopters, 2 camp crews, supervisors, battalion chiefs. So there's a ton of resources on the ground already. Dispatched and en route, there's another 6 or 7 of our rigs. So we've got a lot of people coming at that. Plus we got A&F there too. So yeah, they're looking at what they have and what they need, and they're going to get exactly what's necessary to complete this firefight.
And what will be the focus of the ground crews? Obviously, above, we're seeing the retardant drops and the water drops, and this is in an area that is very dense and not populated. So what will be the focus of those crews on the ground?
As of right now, as they're assessing where this fire is burning, we're looking at the populated areas first, what those residential areas are. So we'll throw the bulk of our resources at that to keep that fire moving in that direction. I don't have the map sitting in front of me as far as where that is, but if that's the case, that's the strategy, is to keep that away. Once that's the case and they've got protection there and they know that that's not a threat, then they'll start, like they are doing on these other 2 fires, they start working that perimeter and building that containment line. And that's with dozer crews, hand crews, the mop-up crews. So it's that's gonna be their job, and that's heavy and hard in these steep, rugged terrains.
All right. Captain Burko, we certainly appreciate your time.
Thank you. You guys be safe.
Okay. So we got the fire you see from Sky 5. On the other side here, this is was the intersection basically of Lake Hughes and Ridge Route Road, and we can see some people running down the street that, in the direction of the fire. I hope it's because maybe they live down there and they're trying to get some stuff and get out, because you don't want to run in the direction of the fire. But you can see with the body language of people, they're very well aware of what's going on here.
Yeah, and you see authorities in the neighborhood with some of those, if we can pan the camera over a little bit to just show the resources that are in the neighborhood directing traffic and hopefully informing people of what the situation is in their neighborhood. Okay, so that's the location, Lake Hughes Road, Ridge Route Road. We have Sam Cortese, who's standing by with more on evacuation orders and warnings. Sam, do we know anything about this neighborhood that we're looking at right now?
Oh, I can definitely zoom in on that with the Genesis map that we've heard a couple of guests talk about. I did also want to note CHP Newhall did shut down the 5 at Parker Road and Lake Hughes Road. So the 5 is shut down at those 2 off ramps. So that is to be anticipated, but okay, let's see. That is the CAL FIRE map. I don't know if we have our surface. I just wanted to emphasize the Genesis map that we've been hearing from a couple different resources that we've had conversations with on the air here. That is the CAL FIRE map, which is awesome because it shows where the firefighting aircraft currently is. I do not have control of that one, but if we could take the surface, I could show you Genesis. It goes by, we don't have it. Okay, so the Genesis map, just to emphasize that zone issue, it shows where in LA County your zone is. If you're looking for your zone in LA City, that is not on the Genesis map that's been mentioned, but it's very helpful to learn your zone, especially Santa Clarita, where you are now. Look that up. And I know we've heard from LA Fire Captain, LA County retired Fire Captain Bob Goldman saying, if you see the smoke over your house or your neighborhood, get ready to go. But on the Genesis map, we can zoom in very closely and show people where their zones are. As far as updated evacuation orders, Bitter Canyon, Cambridge, Castaic Lake, Charlie Canyon, Golden State, Green Hill, Hasley, Hillcrest, Paradise Ranch, Ridge, Romero, and Sloan are now under evacuation order. That's considered an immediate threat to life. They are saying it's a lawful order to leave now. It is closed to public access at this time. Evacuation warnings have also been issued. That's for the areas surrounding the evacuation orders in anticipation of this fire spreading. And I'll check back in with you as we learn more about evacuation orders. The interactive map I keep mentioning is embedded on ktla.com. So if you're visiting us on the live stream, please check over, open a new tab, check for the evacuation zones in the interactive map at ktla.com to help with evacuation orders and warnings.
All right, Samantha, thank you for that updated information.
You know, Lauren, Glenn, another big issue in this community is it is horse property. Everybody's got a lot of animals, not just horses, but wildlife in general. And they've got pigs, ducks, chickens, horses. Everybody's got an animal. So that, when you talked a little bit about that, Glenn, some of the body language, when you're watching the residents running, they're not running just for themselves, but they're probably going, oh, I got to get the animals safe as well.
And it could very well be some animals that have been evacuated from some of these other fires.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we want to toss it out to Alina Abovian. She's out there in the Santa Clarita Valley, I believe. And Alina, we're talking about the posture of folks, and it is definitely becoming a little bit more of a serious issue we can see. Alina, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, I can hear you. So we're here. It is a very serious issue. We saw people just a few minutes ago running down this street here because they did get that evacuation order. It is a mandatory evacuation order, and you can see why there is a sense of panic in the air because you have the black smoke hovering right over this community. You can see also how windy it is just by looking at those palm trees over there. That just speaks to the strength of the wind down here. We can certainly feel it, and that fire really is very close to this area. This is the Castaic community, again, under mandatory evacuation. So you can see sheriff's deputies here. They have closed off this area because they don't want anyone to try to go back into this community. This is Ridge Route Road and also Lake Hughes Road. Again, they don't want people to go back in. The goal is to get people out. If you live in this area, if you live in this community, grab whatever is necessary. If you have a go bag, get that, your prescription medication, essential paperwork, your pets, check in on the elderly within your community, and just go because you can see how quickly this fire is spreading. I don't have an update as far as the size of the fire, but last we heard 500 acres. My guess is that it is continuing to grow just looking at how the wind is moving through this area. Now, CAL FIRE, a huge presence out here, also LA County Fire. Driving up the 5 freeway earlier, you could see several engines just quickly trying to get to this area to be able to have a presence on the ground. We know that there is a large aerial presence making water drops, those retardant drops, so they're doing their best to keep the fire contained to where it is, to keep it away from the 5 freeway, which is right near this community, and of course to keep it away from the Castaic community here. There are evacuation orders in place, so if you live in this area, certainly heed the evacuation orders. Now, I don't know if they're allowing some people to go inside, what the situation here is, if they get their things to evacuate, but the goal is to keep people away from this community. So we're going to try to get closer to get in there to see what the situation is like, but for now we'll send it back to you.
All right, Alina Abovian, be cautious out there. The shot with your head from Skyfire, well, there it is right there. As you can see, there is Castaic Lake, and if these are flames that are going to burn right up to the water, then that's good. That's an area they don't have to. The firefighters can watch, but maybe they don't have to waste resources on this little section.
Absolutely, and we have seen this fire grow when it was first reported at 10:38, so we're now going on close to 2 hours. It's grown to more than 500 acres. It is prompted mandatory evacuation orders in the Castaic Lake area, like the neighborhood where we just saw Alina. You could see people hurrying on foot, rushing around. The sheriff's deputies in the area, they typically tell people to get out and notify them of the situation and also help orchestrate. We've heard from authorities with LA County Fire as well as Angeles National Forest. Both are involved in the firefight and unified command. There are crews on the ground, and overhead we have seen helicopters doing drops. We have seen fixed-wing aircraft laying down lines of Phos-Chek or fire retardant, which slow the spread of the fire. We've seen the super scoopers, which drop water on the fire. So we are also seeing the 5 freeway impacted. There is a closure in the area impacted by the fire. We have learned that was new information reported by our Samantha Cortese a short time ago. You're seeing overhead just the smoke that is enveloping the area. We've seen video, people sending from Thousand Oaks where they can see the huge plume of smoke from that area. You can get a sense of the fire and the smoke and the homes and just where that all is in relation to each other, even though the fire is burning in dense, dry fuel in the hills there. It is impacting residents at this point in terms of evacuation.
Yeah, but again, the good news is it's actually burning right into that into Castaic Lake, which is kind of has a V shape to it.
Yeah.
So if it burns into that, that's good news. That certainly is a big help for the firefighters. And there's also a couple of other bodies of water around, like Pyramid Lake, which is they can go to get pick up the water and quickly come back and fight the fire to help those firefighters on the ground. And again, for people that may have traveled up the 5 freeway, the part that's being affected by the smoke right now is where it's kind of weird. It's like the freeway's going north,
yeah,
and then it splits and actually crisscrosses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're actually driving. If you're driving north, you're really on the other side, looking to your right and seeing traffic heading south. It's kind of it goes that way for several miles, and it crisscrosses back. Kind of an odd situation because of the topography, but that's basically the part of the freeway where they've got to be concerned. And Lauren just got a new number. This thing has really exploded.
Yeah, this has exploded to 3,400 acres, we are now learning. So in less than 2 hours, this went from 50 acres to 100 to 500 to now 3,400 acres. It's driven by these red flag conditions. The biggest concerns are the dry fuels, the low humidity, also some wind, but nothing like the winds we saw in the Palisades fire or Eaton fire, where they were gusting very, very extremely. These are not as high of winds. So aircraft is able to fly. We have James Ramos on the ground. He is a KTLA photojournalist who is on the scene there, and he also is a resident in this area. So James, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what you're seeing and your knowledge of the area, and if you're impacted. I hope not.
Yes, Lauren, hi, Glenn. I'm actually located here on Ridge Route Road. Just north of North Lake Elementary. As you can see, we've got firefighters working their way up Ridge Route Road. North Lake Elementary has been evacuated already. All the parents came and picked up their kids. And as you can see right now, the fire has not spread across the lake. And that's important. That's an important note. Because once it crosses over the lake, we can have a really big, large amount of fuel that can burn.
Yeah, you certainly don't. I
now,
mean,
if you look down here, this is Castaic Canyon.
Looks pretty dry, James.
Oh, I'm sorry, Glenn.
I said, James, that looks like
dry.
Very dry.
This is the location of the root fire back in 2022, right in here. And as you can see right here, we've got firefighters standing by here on the ridge, just making sure that there's no spotting, no spot fires.
Done for today. Thank you so much.
Right now it's clear. It's just smoke.
Yeah. Okay, James, you've given us a great vantage point and a great
It's all
sense.
clear here now.
Great sense of the situation there, and also that's helpful information. He's saying some of this area burned in 2022. You know, some of these areas with fuel, we hear they haven't burned for 40 years, you know, so at least some of the areas that we're dealing with here burned in 2022. Let's go back to the newsroom to Samantha Cortese. She has some new information at this hour having to do with evacuation. Sam.
Yes, and we have that Genesis map ready to go now, which all of our guests have been talking about as we watch these incredible efforts from the firefighting from above. Here is that Genesis map, and why it's emphasized to use this is because, for example, if I click on the Romero area, it will tell us what in that area is under evacuation order. Of course, red means order, yellow means warning. This is Castaic High School. Castaic High School is now under evacuation order, as well as Castaic Middle and Elementary Schools. And that information is on our website, ktla.com. We've worked with CAL FIRE to make this interactive and easy for people to know when they're being asked to leave or being ready to leave. If I zoom out here, this just shows the size of